a little outdoor reading today for The Power of a Teacher by Saenz on Chapter 3, titled Occupational Well-Being. Part of the issue is that I have a handful of English language learners in my class this year, and I've never even thought to go to any kind of workshop or professional development to prepare me how to teach them. Donna is a master teacher, but has the thought ever occurred to her that I might need some help or some guidance or something? Then again, even if she offered, I'm not sure I'd accept it from her. I've overheard her in the workroom talking about how she can't believe what a zoo Miss Macy's class is and how Mrs. Spencer has been such a show-off since she won the lead teacher award last year. She's so catty, and what makes it even worse is that she has a way of gathering everyone on her side. The teacher who is not experiencing occupational well-being invests a substantial portion of each day's life energy, weekends included, into an endeavor that will offer in return theft of leisure time and relational isolation. If I am that teacher, it will only be a matter of time before I develop deep resentment for my job. Are you that teacher? If so, your hope lies in the reality that you have power to create and maintain professional relationships with your colleagues that can be a rich emotional and intellectual resource to you, and vice versa. Also, that hope is part of the larger reality that you really do have power to find fulfillment both on and off campus. What is occupational well-being? We are bombarded daily by magazine covers, commercials, and new books offering us the secret to personal happiness. Words like wellness can lose their meaning in a hurry, so I want to be careful to avoid vague ideas of happiness and keep us focused on a fairly specific target. Occupational wellness, according to wellness researcher David Anspaugh, is simply the ability to achieve a balance between work and leisure time. Occupational wellness involves learning to deal with your workplace stress, building stronger working relationships with your coworkers, exploring options to create a better work environment, and progressing towards your career goals. Stephen Denham, researcher for the Australian Council of Educational Research, surveyed teachers from Australia, New Zealand, and England, and found that across all three countries, teachers noted the following common challenges: increased community criticism, lower teacher status, and lack of control over the educational process. One veteran educator summarized the state of his occupational well-being by noting, "When I started teaching in the 1970s, I was a teacher in the classroom. Now, in the classroom, I am a father, a youth pastor, a cop, a social worker, a friend, and for about 20 minutes a day, a teacher." It's no wonder that maintaining occupational well-being as a teacher is a challenge. Occupational well-being, the keys. Key number 1, develop effective professional community. Consider the following list of behavioral concerns I've collected in my work with K-12 schools. They don't know how to manage their emotions. I'm so tired of all the jealousy, drama, and nonsense. They're always up in everyone else's business and talk about other people all the time. If someone does something good, others only try to tear them down. They are incredibly immature. It's like they feel they have permission that since they've done their time in school, now they can be mean, sarcastic, and rude. The school was a den of gossip, even after gossiping and tattling was addressed and discouraged. I see so much backstabbing. Ready for the kicker? These comments came from teachers who were describing not their students, but the relationships among teachers on their campus. Sorry, I left my thing at school and I'm at home. There we go. Ouch. When this level of mistrust exists at any level, grade, campus, or district, finding occupational well-being can be extremely difficult. Julie is a researcher with the Department of Sociology at Southern Oregon University who is known for her research in the area of relational dynamics in schools. In her book, Building Trust for Better Schools, Julie notes that while trust is necessary on many relational levels among teachers and administrators, among teachers and parents, among teachers and students, the starting point is establishing trust among teachers and between teachers and administrators. When trust at this relational level has been eroded by toxic interaction, the repair to campus culture can take years. Julie observes that trust building is a developmental process in which each party comes to understand what is necessary to sustain the other's trust through the development of a collective identity or the creating of joint goals and shared values. One veteran teacher put it this way: I think of my team as my spouse. Sometimes we get along, sometimes we don't. The idea is to remain professional and keep the kids in mind. We've definitely had squabbles, and some people have difficult personalities. I'd venture to say there are fewer people more difficult to work with than one of my team members. But we have the mentality that she has a lot we can learn from, and we'll try to kill her with kindness until she comes around. I live my life at school with these words in my mind. Baby steps. Again, it all depends on the team. What I appreciate about this teacher's perspective is that she's looking at the big picture, understanding and engaging her professional relationships as long-term commitments. She's also approaching her relationships with an element of humility, looking to learn, even from a colleague who makes interpersonal interaction less than a pleasure. That approach clearly illustrates the challenge of the high road, but in the end, that perspective will foster the kind of relational environment that benefits both teachers and students. Key number 2, set and maintain good boundaries between work and home. Creating and maintaining healthy, supportive professional relationships is critical to occupational well-being. But what happens when we leave campus? Typically, we leave school, but school doesn't leave us. Tangibly, there's homework to grade, paperwork to complete, and grades to assign, among many other responsibilities. Intangibly, there are conflicts and frustrations that are so hard to let go of. Between the tangible and the intangible, it may seem that work never stops. Overwork definitely is not an American phenomenon. According to a 2011 study conducted by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the Japanese and Koreans work the most minutes per day. It's not surprising then to know that the Japanese have created a word, karashi, that means death from overwork. When we factor in unpaid work such as grocery shopping and housework, Mexicans and Chinese have the longest workday, followed by Canadians and the Portuguese. When both paid and non-paid working hours are factored, Americans ranked 9th. While we Americans may not work the longest hours, we still face a crisis of negative effects, largely because we have failed to pair our lives with wellness. Jody Heyman, founder of the Harvard-based Project on Global Working Families and the director of McGill's Institute for Health and Social Policy, noted that more countries are providing the workplace protections that millions of Americans can only dream of. The U.S. has been a proud leader in adopting laws that provide for equal opportunity in the workplace, but our work-family protections are among the worst. How do teachers' hours compare to those of other American professionals? Rachel Krantz-Kent, an economist with the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, issued the following analysis of the 2008 data. Teachers were more likely than other professionals to do some work at home. Teachers were more likely than other professionals to work on a Sunday. Teachers were more likely than other professionals to hold more than one job simultaneously. Time management coach and certified teacher Tim Wilson firmly believes in a teacher's ability to set and maintain boundaries. He divides his tasks into one of 4 categories. What you have to do. These are the activities that sustain your basic functioning, such as eating and sleeping. Even the time and effort you put into these essential activities is largely your decision. What you choose to do. This consists of the work you're prepared to do to maintain or achieve your desired standard of living. This category is essentially what you do to earn income. What you want to do. Anything you do, whether it's planned or not, that you would call enjoying the fruits of your labor. Recreation, pastimes, hobbies, and maintaining relationships with family and friends. Throwaway time. This is the time that's wasted on activities that, on reflection, you could have stopped, rejected, ignored, or outsourced. We can never entirely eliminate throwaway time, but if we're deliberate, throwaway time can be significantly reduced. By paying attention to the how, when, where, and why of time management, a teacher is able to create the space needed to begin to build a healthy margin that contributes to personal wellness. Conclusion. Our blogging teacher, Jennifer, hasn't always resented teaching, but now she is professionally isolated. Her isolation makes it difficult to find the support she needs with classroom management and adapting her lesson plans to the needs of the English language learners. These gaps in her experience and resources are increasing her anxiety and making her work much harder, though not necessarily much smarter, to accomplish a minimal amount of work. Since she is not able to manage her tasks efficiently on campus, she is forced to bring excessive work home and stay up late to get it done. If you've been teaching for more than a week or so, I suspect you can relate, even if the details of your circumstances are different. Most teachers I know who have begun to dislike their vocation are experiencing deficits in both the key areas outlined above. Neither deficit is insurmountable. Certainly, you have limited control over who your colleagues will be, but what you can control is how you respond to them. Adjusting the relational dynamics with fellow teachers and administrators will likely require some risk on your part, risk of being rejected, hurt, or ignored. Our tendency to flee those risks seems like self-preservation, but more often it guarantees us an isolated, unhealthy existence at work. I can hear the response already because I've heard it many times before and know it is true. But Adam, you don't know who I have to work with. No, I don't, but I do know that distress and isolation never lead to occupational well-being. Start small, be patient, and be forgiving. Believe that the reward of finding some healthy human interaction at work is worth the risk. You do control what you choose to do and what you want to do, regardless of how long ago it was that you last felt in control of those categories. Rather than allowing your work to dominate your life, believe that there is a more balanced way to manage your time that will not get you fired or cost your students too much and will allow you to feel like a human again. Summary. Healthy, supportive relationships in the workplace are essential to occupational well-being. And setting appropriate boundaries between work and personal responsibilities is essential to occupational well-being. Occupational well-being, recommendations for action. Number 1, do reach out to a colleague that you sense is struggling. Even if you don't have helpful advice, you can have a listening ear. Many times, just being a good listener is more helpful to someone than offering unsolicited advice. Number 2, do attend a training or professional development at the campus, district, or educational service center level to sharpen your skill set. After the training, review the content with your colleagues, letting them know you are available to be a resource in that area if needed. Number 3, do clear the air with a colleague, parent, or student with whom you've had conflict. Be a humble listener and seek to listen and understand them before seeking to be heard and understood. Be willing to own your part of a conflict or misunderstanding. Use I statements such as, I feel blank about blank because blank. The point of the conversation is not to assign blame, but to restore mutual trust and understanding. Number 4, do congratulate a colleague, parent, or a student for any job, big or small, that was well done. Make a habit of finding what is working on your campus and among your colleagues, and do your best to call everyone's attention to it. Never underestimate the value of an encouraging email, comment, or gesture. Number 5, do practice utilizing your colleagues as a resource. Schedule a conference with a colleague experienced in your content area to gain ideas about instructional strategies or classroom management ideas. Ask your campus or district level administrator to connect you with a district behavior management or curriculum specialist. Number 6, do discuss your morning and evening schedule with your spouse, children, or roommate to create boundaries that will allow you to disengage from work, even if for 20 minutes when you are home. Let them know you have a need to create space and time separate from your work, and ask them to partner with and help you be successful. Let them know specifically and individually what they can do to help, and let them know specifically and individually how they will benefit from the change. Watch Brene Brown's TED Talk, The Power of Vulnerability. That video absolutely is worth 20 minutes of your time, and there is a link listed here on page 46. Number 8, this Saturday night, watch The Dead Poets Society, The Man Without a Face, The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie, Mr. Holland's Opus, Up the Down Staircase, To Sir with Love, Music of the Heart, or Stand and Deliver. Number 1, don't ignore or avoid colleagues, students, or parents with whom you have had conflict, or pretend that no conflict occurred. Number 2, don't ignore your feelings. Number 3, Don't attack, blame, or criticize a colleague, student, or parent in attempting to resolve conflict. And don't number 4, don't vent your frustrations with one colleague, student, or parent by gossiping about them to another. And that is the end of, oh, it's not, just joking, there's another page. Mr. Parker's power to change Joey McGee's life. The course of my life was significantly altered because of people who took the time to pause in their lives, call me to attention, and subsequently speak into mine. Mr. Parker, an 8th grade instructor at John F. Kennedy Senior High in New Orleans, Louisiana, was one of those persons. Who I am today notably bears the mark of his influence. Mr. McGee, sit down. I want to talk to you, he demanded as I meandered into his classroom one afternoon early after lunch. I just want to know one thing. Why are you so sycophant? He questioned. Sick of what? I responded as the heaviness of his confrontational tone wrapped itself around my mind. Sycophant, he replied as he thrust a dictionary in front of me. After a few moments, I found it. A self-seeking, servile flatterer. Ugh. I was busted and exposed. Servile flatterer, brown-noser, a suck-up. All resemblance of any facade I upheld lay shattered on that floor at his feet in my junior year of high school. I was an overweight, insecure, and needy kid who would do just about anything to fit in. I wanted to belong. With the poignancy and wisdom of a prophetic sage, Mr. Parker spoke into my life that afternoon and challenged my self-perception. Difference was not something to be despised. Rather, it was something to delight in. He further encouraged me to press into my own uniqueness, to value those propensities he pointed out in me. Insightfulness, intelligence. I was outstanding, not an outcast. I don't know what prompted Mr. Parker to confront me that afternoon. Perhaps he was seeing the unhealthy thing in me that he had wrestled with himself at one time. That afternoon, confrontation lasted maybe 20 minutes. That its impact still resonates with who I am today and is a rudder in guiding me in who I am continually becoming. Today, as a full-time musician, I know that I am an artist and that my life was destined to be different from many of my peers. Thank you, Mr. Parker, for teaching me to accept and embrace myself. Signed, Joey McGee, singer and songwriter. All right, questions for discussion. Number 1, would you rather have an assistant do all your paperwork or an assistant to interact with all the parents and students? Saenz's answer is, I'm answering this in my role as a psychologist. Let's see, how can I put this? Dealing with paperwork is not one, but 3 thorns in my flesh. Let the assistant take the paperwork and I'll take the parents any day. Number 2, which educators have been role models to you throughout your career? Polly McRoberts, Sharon Brewer-Stolley, and Joella Exley. They were my English teachers in 9th, 10th, and 12th grades, respectively. Every student in their class knew 2 things. The first was that they truly cared about us, and the second was that they weren't going to put up with any of our nonsense. When I failed out of college after my freshman year, I eventually went back to college several years later, taking 1 or 2 courses at a time, and I majored in English. All the time, I was doubtful I would ever graduate. I figured studying English was my best hope because these 3 teachers had always affirmed my writing ability. Number 3, what 3 things would you change about your particular role as an educator? In my role as a psychologist, I would change having to deal with insurance companies. In Chapter 1, I asked you not to get me started. Are you trying to get me started again? I would increase the level of collaboration among schools, pediatricians, and outpatient providers. Number 4, how satisfied with the level of community you experience on your campus? I am moderately satisfied with the level of professional community in my practice. I work with 5 other clinicians, all of who are exceptionally skilled at what they do professionally and lots of fun to be with personally. The only challenge is that since we set our own schedules, there's a lot of hit and miss. Sometimes I wish for more consistent, predictable times for everyone to be together. Number 5, who is one person you could attempt to build a healthier relationship on your campus? In my practice, I tend to focus on maintaining healthy and frequent interaction with the office manager and the support staff. They hold the place together, and I want to be particularly mindful of their needs and concerns. Number 6, What part of your home life takes the biggest hit when you bring work home? Quality time with the kids, definitely. Our girls are 12 and 11, and our boys are 10 and 8. We usually manage to make it to the kids' events, sporting, music, youth group, etc. But when I'm working too much, we lose the quality downtime of just hanging out at home, being together, laughing, and having fun. And that is the end of chapter 3. Have a good day.